the wellness and longevity economy. They're projected to be a $10 trillion industry across everything from beauty, aesthetic products to supplements and all the sort of advanced regenerative and longevity medicines that we have. But there's a lot of noise, and consumers are being sucked into this noise, and they're confused. They don't know what to do. Yeah, it's going to be costly because if you listen to influencer X and influencer B, and they could take you on an expensive journey. I think sticking to the basics is very important, and that's what our ancestors did for thousands of years, right?
Well, welcome to Biohacking with Brittany, the podcast where science meets wisdom. I'm Brittany Ford, holistic nutritionist, biohacker, and mom. And for years, I struggled with gut issues, hormonal imbalances, and the exhaustion of motherhood while running a business. Biohacking and functional medicine became my way back to clarity, vitality, and trust in my body. And that's why I'm here, not just to share information, but to share the practices and perspectives that truly shifted my health and my life. Each week, I bring you science-backed tools, honest conversations, and rituals I live myself so you can return to your own body's wisdom and create longevity on your own terms. Because your body already knows this is just the space to remember. Well, welcome back to Biohacking with Brittany. I'm so happy that you are here joining me today for another discussion about health and wellness and longevity. And I had Dr. Fady Hannah-Shmouni join me, who is a clinical internist, endocrinologist, and geneticist with over 15 years of experience in this space. And we really got to sit down and talk about kind of the future of healthcare. We talked about data and testing and AI, and he really bridges endocrinology, genetics, and longevity in a really, really cool way. So we talked a lot about cortisol and nervous system regulation and even female-centric optimization, which is what I love. He's involved in a company called ELI Health, and I will link them in the show notes and on the website so you can find them easily. But essentially, this is an at-home test that you can do that looks at your cortisol, and you can really test at any time to look at your cortisol. And instead of, doing a saliva test and then sending it to a lab and waiting for your results, it is very innovative, and it actually connects to an app. It's like this stick, basically. You use it with your saliva and it connects to an app, and it gives you like a real-time recording. And so ELI Health is really changing the way that we actually even look at home testing already. It's very, very new and innovative. And I'm so excited to see them bringing it out for other hormones as well, like testosterone or progesterone and things like that. So this is so cool. And I'm just really excited for them. And we really get into the implications of that, like why it's important to have such real-time feedback and what that means and how we can actually apply that to our life, right? So if we're noticing our cortisol is spiking after coffee, maybe we drink less coffee, or before a big presentation, or after work, or whatever it might be, right? Like we can kind of start to put the pieces of the puzzle together on like how we're feeling and what our hormones are actually doing through this data and through this testing. So very cool discussion about the future of healthcare and wellness in that space. And we did talk about AI a lot as well. So he is such a wealth of knowledge in that space. And I just love, picking his brain about it. A shout out to Bioptimizers, who are the best in the game. I am packing. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm packing for my traveling. I'm leaving for 4 months really soon. And I've just put aside my supplements that I'm taking with me. And Bioptimizers, I am taking quite a lot of their supplements. So I'm taking digestive enzymes, magnesium with me, and I think they're probiotic as well. They have the best digestive enzymes. Like they're so, so good that it makes me nervous to travel without them. Because if I'm ever eating a really big meal or something with a lot of like gluten or grains or processed food or dairy, it really reduces the negative side effects of that. So like it helps with the bloating and feeling super full, keeping you regular, and just really helping with all the different gut health metrics like that. So if you haven't tried Bioptimizers yet, seriously, I highly recommend them. Discount code is biohackingbrittany, and you can get started today. And of course, to my retreats, I just got back from a retreat this week in Florida, and it was incredible. My God, it was amazing. And the connections that you make with other women on retreats are, I can't even talk high enough about them, because you're really bringing together a group of women around the world who have the same values as you, and you all get to be in the same space for a few days and talk about everything that you love about health and wellness and longevity and biohacking and intuition and being a woman, really. So it's so healing in that way. And there's such a strong element of community that I'm just obsessed with. I really can't talk high enough about retreats because I think they are transformational. They change something in people. And that's why people come back and they're like, whoa, I didn't expect that. And now I feel differently. And they're just so beautiful. So I'm running my retreat in Costa Rica in March. There's still some spots left if you want to join me. I had 2 calls with women this week who want to join. One coming from Australia. Oh my gosh, bless her heart. Cannot wait to meet her and hug her in person. But yeah, if you want to hop on a call with me, I really suggest you do that and we can chat. I will link that in the show notes for you to, easily do that. It's also in my link in my bio on Instagram. And you can always message me at any time, which a lot of you do, with your health questions, and I would be happy to chat. Okay, thank you for listening, and I will catch you soon for another episode. Okay, Dr. Fady, we were just talking about this. You were explaining the AI robot that you just built. Can you explain to me how this works?
Yeah, so it's vibe coding, and it's one of the most important use cases of AI today. It's the ability for anyone in the creator economy to use a vibe coding platform like Replit or Lovable and chat with the AI agent to create a product, an app, a website, whatever it is, and you can launch it. You can even buy the website domain from the platform, and they help you launch everything. They help you customize, the website, the designs. They've helped me build my investor deck. So yeah, it's pretty powerful. But it just shows you that anyone today can monetize through the AI technologies, and it's so much fun. So I built a company called Hormonally, which sizes all the evidence on peptides and hormones and creates various scientific blogs, and a peptide concierge co-pilot that provide evidence-based information for consumers.
Nice. Yeah, very cool. I use AI, but now I feel like I use AI in a very basic way. I use ChatGPT and it helps me write my copy and answer my emails. But yeah, it'd be interesting to build something especially health focused. I know a lot of people are trying to do this in the space of and we can get into this with your product, of bringing in so much data from our wearables and our tests, and how do we use AI to understand that data and then make more informed decisions moving forward.
Yeah, and the future is always will rely on big data analysis, and I think today with the smart wearables and the smart technologies and the big biomarkers that we have, we could definitely leverage big data through these AI analytics to create different predictions and, of course, monitoring of our health, so we can create personalized, data-driven insights for the betterment of our health.
Yeah. Where do you think, or how do you think this is going to shape the future of preventative and natural health care?
Yeah, it's data-driven. So all of us will have multiple sensors in our bodies that will feed big data in real time, continuous, that will constantly analyze and create these models that are quite predictive. For example, if I can analyze your data during sleep from your sweat, your saliva, wearables, your mat test, and then can preemptively predict a health event before it happens and warn you before it happens, like a myocardial infarction, a heart attack, or a seizure. So that's very powerful, right? For understanding disease evolution and then preventing the disease from happening, so we can lower morbidity on the individual.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of scary though, having something constantly track you, and then it's giving all this data, and then what if there's a data breach, or what are people doing with the data who own those companies?
Yeah, there are always concerns. I mean, the company has to be ethical with the way they analyze the data. The consumer has to consent to data sharing. Consumers have to also understand the risks. I mean, we've seen major issues with data breach, like the 23andMe data breach with genetic data. But I think as long as we're all informed about the risks and the benefits, that's step one. Step two is to have really good players in the industry, right? Companies and founders that are great products and that take care of consumer information and protect it well. And then, I think it's a net positive, right? Because you're contributing data towards these companies and research, and that will help advance humanity.
Yeah. Do you think it would ever get overwhelming for the average consumer? And like, do you actually see that now with your current product?
Yeah, I'm overwhelmed with what I do, right? So I recently took off my continuous glucose monitor because it was beeping the whole time, and it was influencing the way I was managing my meal plans. So yeah, a lot of data is not healthy. And today, we give a lot of data through bulky wearables and bulk interfaces. But I think these interfaces are going to be so nano in the future that they're going to offer a consumer-centric, friendly tech platform that would not create inconvenience, but rather feed data that will potentially change behavior and create a positive feedback loop on the individual's health trajectory.
Yeah. But what type of wearables would this be? Because obviously right now you said like the CGM monitor, I have an Oura ring, I have a watch. Everything is kind of like siloed, but in terms of like testing different blood levels of different biomarkers like vitamin D or hormones or whatever, like how would you actually do that in real time by constantly wearing something? Like what would that look like?
Yeah, no one has figured it out yet commercially, but there's a lot of great studies and products out there, especially from top universities like McMaster in Canada and Stanford. I think the future will rely on non-invasive wearables like patches, sensors on the skin, or small implantables under the skin, or even fashion. So something you wear on your body that can transmit data, or something that you would ingest, that will continue to monitor you, like a endoscopy capsule. But yeah, there are different ways of sort of monitoring the individual. What we have today is great as well. For example, ELI Health, which is a Canadian company that has sort of invented a new category in hormone testing called the hormometer, which is a patented technology that leverages saliva and a lateral flow assay for instant hormone monitoring, including cortisol, progesterone, testosterone, and the technology can be used for many other applications down the road. So that's a nice, scalable, low cost, consumer-centric product. But I think the future will lie on, a lot of these easier products to administer that will continuously, not only continuously monitor you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty wild to think about actually swallowing something and having it sit in your body and monitor you. Like, I've never thought about that before. Or even I wonder if there's something there to be said about like the microbiome and the different bacteria that we have or viruses. And what could that mean? Like, especially in the wake of like COVID. Yeah, that would be very
have those
interesting.
already. So we have a sensor that you can put in your toilet that could monitor your biomarkers, including your stool microbiome and your urine metabolite. But the question is, sure, it's a cool gadget. It will just a lot of data, but how accurate is this data and how will it influence you as a consumer with your choices? So we also have to remember that we're humans, we have bad habits, we want to enjoy life, and we don't want to be, as you said, constantly monitored or bombarded with data. And it has to be data that's intelligently sort of digested and analyzed by a platform that is intelligent. And I don't think we're there yet. I mean, sure, there's all that great technology in AI and and in the very near future, AGI, which is going to be very, very interesting, which is artificial general intelligence.
Say it again. It's artificial what, sorry?
Artificial general intelligence, AGI.
Okay.
Which is sort of a super intelligent algorithm. But, the question is, where are we today? Like, how is all of this influencing the way we are? I mean, we're still quicker than ever. We still have a lot of conflict in the world. And if you look at the macro economic conditions, we're doing very, very poorly. So there are other things to pay attention to, especially from the public health lens perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it, right? Like, and that's the whole issue that kind of comes up again and again with like biohacking and longevity and optimal wellness is like, it's so cool to do these things, but how many people can afford them? How accessible is it across the world? We're talking like very small percentage of the entire global population can buy all of these things, afford it, and have access to it in general.
Sure. I mean, noise to signal ratio, right? There's a lot of noise in the industry. It's a real industry, the wellness and longevity economy. projected to be a $10 trillion industry across everything from beauty, aesthetic products to supplements and all the sort of advanced regenerative and longevity medicines that we have. But there's a lot of noise, and consumers are being sucked into this noise, and they're confused. They don't know what to do. And yeah, it's going to be costly, because if you listen to influencer X and influencer B, and they could take you on an expensive journey. So I think sticking to the basics is very important. And that's what our ancestors did today for thousands of years, right? They ate healthy, they moved, they were in communities, they valued family, they had a relationship with a higher power. And, these basic things, which we're seeing also in the blue zones around the world, I think are very important, essential first steps to biohacking your longevity. And then if you have extra dollars here and there, you could experiment. We know nothing works from a longevity perspective except exercise and muscle building. So if you were to sort of combine the scientific evidence out there, everything else can be sort of refuted through evidence-based approaches. But let's not discount how people feel, right? It's important that if something makes you feel good, whether it's a cold plunge or a cryo, you don't need to follow evidence. Follow your heart. Do what you for you, because if you feel good, that has such a positive effect on everything. So call it placebo, call it a positive physiologic process, whatever it is. I'm a big believer in that. And I think we should empower consumers to try and do whatever they want, but do no harm. So make sure it's safe.
This episode is brought to you by Optimize Her, my women's biohacking retreat in Costa Rica, happening March 2nd to 7th, 2026. I am so excited, guys. This isn't just another yoga retreat. It's a 5-night, 6-day, science-backed health optimization woven into feminine restoration, designed specifically for women's bodies. We'll dive into functional medicine and longevity tools, experience healing sessions like sound baths and cacao ceremonies, and recalibrate with daily movement, spa rituals, and farm-to-table meals that support hormones, gut health, and vitality. It's not about fixing. It's about clearing the noise so you can actually tune into your body again. If you're ready for deep restoration and transformation, you can explore all the details in the show notes, and I would absolutely love to see you in Costa Rica. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I feel like there's like this balance between data and wearables and information and intuition. And I went through this a few years ago of really taking everything for example, my Oura Ring said to heart, being like, oh, okay, this is how I slept and this is the workout you recommend today. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to ignore actually how my body feels. And then it got to a point where I was so obsessed with it that I turned it off for 6 weeks and I just didn't look at it. And I was like, okay, I'm waking up this morning. How do I feel? Do I want to go for a run or do I just feel like doing yoga today? Okay, great. And so I actually had to completely disassociate from it and then bring it back in of okay, it's helpful. Thank you for this recommendation, but I'm also going to actually check in with my body. Okay, how do I feel? Because it will never actually know that. It will never actually know everything that is coming into play for my day.
Yeah. Yeah. I had an Oura and a Whoop and a bunch of other gadgets. And I took them off because they were bothering me and bothering bothering some decisions that I really enjoy, which are not healthy. Drinking wine and at night, but I just don't want to feel guilty through data as well. I also understand their value and think from a population health monitoring initiative, we can learn so much about the human body and the human physiology through wearables.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so funny though. The guilt really does get you. So it's how do you balance that of this is what this alcohol does to my heart metrics, my HRV, my resting heart rate. Okay, now I'm going to reduce my alcohol versus let me just take it off and ignore it so I can have this moment where I feel good. How does the average person balance that?
Yeah, well, there's good debt and bad debt in life, right? Get rid of bad debt. And what I mean by that is risk factors. So for example, if you do 10 bad things and you've got 10 bad risk factors, and if you can get rid of one, like extra fat, right, in the body, that can negate many other risks that you will probably continue to have, like smoking and alcohol intake. So I think that we should peel off bad debt slowly over time, not bombard the consumer with everything all at once, which is something that we as healthcare professionals are guilty of, right? We see somebody, they've got 10 problems. We want to solve them all. We give them a statin, a medication. We give them the Ozempics. They get side effects. They don't have trust in our system anymore, and they go and do something else. So a lot of it is precision. It's and you have to listen to the consumer, see what they want, and support them in that journey. And don't discount the placebo effect. Don't discount biohacking. Let them do what they want as long as it's safe, right? There are also risks with a lot of these unregulated products that are out there, including the red light face masks. I mean, we've heard of horrible stories, right, about burns and whatnot. So, safety is first. Let the consumer do what they want in the context of good guidance, and then don't give too much. Pull off the bad debt.
Yeah. It's hard now too. Like there's just so many companies coming out with products. And like we see this in the supplement industry of like white labeled products that are like so clear and what are they like, what's the wording? Natural and all of these like terms that actually are not regulated. And then you're like buying this like B vitamin supplement complex and you're like, oh, this must be great. Cause like, look, there's like a leaf on the package, right? And now there's so many of those products. And then people are overwhelmed. And it's like, now what do we do? Like, which company is actually legit?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But what I could tell you, there's a lot of risks associated with supplements, including elevated liver function tests, so elevated AST, ALT, or liver enzymes, nausea, vomiting, bloating, well, it depends what you're taking. Like a lot of these supplements also have heavy metal toxins in them, what we call endocrine disrupting chemicals from the environment, from the plastics or the way they process or the way they package these products. So there's the contamination side, there's the adverse effects it may have on your liver and other organs, and then there are basic supplements that are non-negotiable, right? Most of us are vitamin D deficient, so get your vitamin D measured. And if you don't want to measure it, fine, just take vitamin D, right? Magnesium is extremely important. Even when you measure it in blood, most often we're just measuring the small pool of magnesium in the blood. So it reflect on your magnesium reserves. So just take it at night. It helps you with sleep. It calms you down. Creatine is a non-negotiable for both males and females. It's cheap. We've got over 50 years of data on creatine, and that's a non-negotiable. And there's probably some others that sort of have this massive evidence behind them. But everything else needs to be very well studied and reviewed, right? And I keep repeating this. Do no harm, right? Start with the basics, double down on the basics. If it makes you feel good, great. But be the source, make sure it's not going to harm you.
But people don't know if it's harming them, right? Like, how would they know, oh, this has heavy metals in it and it's like clogging up my liver? How would the average person know that?
So some companies are good with being transparent about third-party testing, especially for lead in a lot of these protein powders. There's a recent consumer report that came out showing that most protein powders have lead in them. And so transparency, ask or look for third-party validated for a lot of these products or chemicals. Something I wouldn't recommend is following the herd. So when someone says something on social media, trust but verify, right? Especially if they're a big influencer. So trust but verify. A lot of big influencers have really good intentions, right? But there might be other gains behind promoting different products. So I would caution the consumer, right? Do your due diligence. Ask ChatGPT for ChatGPT's opinion, because ChatGPT I think has a very broad opinion, hopefully non-biased. Yeah, those are my recommendations. So stick to the basics. Focus on the supplements that have been shown to have great evidence. And then if you want to be experimental and expand, that's fine. But choose a product that's trusted.
Yeah. Usually when I take something, I do a lot of research behind it. And honestly, a lot of the time, the best products are more expensive. Like, especially when I was going through prenatals, when I was pregnant, like there were two companies that I thought were the best and they were not cheap, especially to get in Canada. But I wasn't about to just take a prenatal off of Amazon or even a gummy prenatal. I'm like, what? So I'm just going to eat this like gummy with all of this sugar in it and hopefully get enough nutrients. Like, I don't think it works like that.
Yeah. Health Canada approved supplements go through rigorous studies, and Canada has very high standards when it comes to approving product consumers. So we're better off than other countries. In the United States, you would have to just send a letter to the FDA a couple of weeks before marketing your supplement. It's wild, wild west over there.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's actually crazy. It's interesting though, like when we're talking about like data and testing and AI and all these things that we can do, when like you kind of mentioned, if we go back to the blue zones or even the blue zones today, is like, are these people way healthier than us and they don't do any of this? Like I've been to Costa Rica multiple times in the Nicoya Peninsula, and they're not out there taking vitamin D. Obviously, they're in the sun, but they're not doing any of these like little like taking magnesium or red light therapy or anything like that. They're just like living this like much more wholesome life, and like arguably they're healthier than we are.
Well, they don't have vibe coding. Like I'm right in front of, like I've been vibe coding for the past week and sort of impacted a lot of my fitness and also physical well-being. So yeah, our lifestyle in North America is impacting the way we age, recover, and it will likely also have an impact on our longevity. Although I'm an optimist. I mean, look at our life expectancy over the past 100 years and more than doubled. And the is that there's going to be a longevity escape velocity over the next 5, 10, 20 years where we're going to be likely living to 120 because of all the advancements, technology, especially in the biopharmaceuticals and the regenerative therapies. So I think we are in a good spot. I think we're going to continue to live longer. The question is, are we healthy? Which is sort of a debate between healthspan, lifespan, longevity. And let's define, right? So healthspan are the number of years lived in good health away from disability and disease. And is the amount of time we live on Earth, so the amount of time we breathe oxygen. And longevity is that sort of pursuit to living longer, healthier.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I'm studying with A4M right now. I'm doing their fellowship in longevity medicine. Do you know A4M? Probably.
Yeah. Great society.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've actually been thinking about this concept a lot lately of like, what would it look like to have a healthier second half of life? Actually, though, like from 50 to 100, I'm healthier than right now. And
yes.
Like, do you actually think that that is possible?
Yeah. I like the framework that Peter Attia about and preaches, which is life is a marathon and you've got to train for your last decades, your marginal years from now. And that includes sticking to the basics. So good sleep, getting rid of bad debt and building muscle, right? Because what happens as we age is that we start to lose a lot of these important defensive mechanisms, functionality and muscle and power. So, and then we're at risk of chronic disease. So get screened if you want to live longer. Like don't wait for evidence guided screening, right? Which I think is, again, they're well-intentioned, right? Reported by large data, but it's not personalized medicine, right? It's good for the society. It's good for the population because of the economics of population screening, but it's not good for the individual because there's so much variability in the way disease presents. And so if you have the means and the capabilities, and if you're willing to accept the false positives and the false negatives of a lot of these testings, like the full body MRI and the other proactive tests, then I encourage you to do it. Because as Peter Diamandis says, the body's excellent at hiding disease.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't like that.
And the only one way to find out is to test.
Right. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think the body is good at hiding disease? Like, why would it want to hide it?
Well, because the body's incredible at fighting disease. We've got cells and inflammation and all the time. We've got bad genes, like really bad genes that predispose us to many diseases that we all have, that we've inherited from our ancestors. But the body's excellent through our immune system and our gut and the way it sort of is physiologically homeostatic, right? That it continues to get rid of these bad actors and bad cells. But then these sort of chronic conditions, they start in a very slow and progressive fashion, and they sort of evade the immune system and other systems in the body and then manifest with disease. That typically takes decades of fighting between the good cells and the bad cells. But diabetes, it's when someone's diagnosed with diabetes, like full-blown diabetes, they probably had it for over 10 years without them knowing. And so the big question now, and this is a type of medicine that's evolving, and I think it's going to get accelerated by AI and these predictive models. It's called phenomic medicine. Phenomic medicine. Medicine is the study of medicine to try to understand the various biomarkers that lead to disease evolution from a wellness state to a disease state. And that's very powerful, because if we can get to a point where we can know from a single blood test, where we are on that trajectory for developing diabetes and cancer and stroke, then we can intervene and change that trajectory, right? And we're in the early innings of this medicine, but the future is so bright, right? With this sort of multi-omic approach to our thinking of healthcare and medicine, which is, it's no longer just about taking a medical history and blood. It's about letting you measure your data from home and follow you continuously over time, and then use these big data sets and analytic platforms to analyze your risk and see where you are. It's big data, and with AI today, it's hard to do.
A couple things. I want to touch on the cancer point. So I had a cancer expert, a friend of mine, on the show, and she works in the women's health space. And she used to have patients come in and they would be, she's plus and have cancer, and she's a naturopathic doctor, and she'd help them and whatever. Now her typical patient is like these and is like the woman who's like green juice, yoga, mom, busy, working, whatever, and comes to her and says, I just found out I have stage 4 cancer. And I'm like 42. What the heck is going on? And so she told me on my show, she's like, go get this test done. I have to find the name of it, but there's a test that you can do that looks at the biomarkers for tumor cells, looks for tumor cells. It's a blood test. And she recommends women and men start doing this like in their 30s every single year. So instead of waiting until stage 4 cancer, you see your test, it has tumor cells, and then you can actually do something way earlier. What do you think about something like this? Because I'm actually considering going to get it done. If you're a woman juggling work, motherhood, and trying to stay healthy, you know how easy it is to feel burnt out. The fatigue, the bloating, the restless nights, the hormonal ups and downs that make everything harder. And that's exactly why I love Bioptimizers, supplements that actually work with your biology. Their magnesium breakthrough is one of my daily must-haves. It combines all 7 forms of magnesium to calm your nervous system, support hormonal balance, improve sleep, and help you finally feel grounded again. Doesn't that sound nice? And if you're tired of feeling puffy or bloated after meals, their mass enzymes and P3OM probiotics are game changers. They help you digest food properly, reduce inflammation, and keep your gut and mood balanced. Every formula is science-backed, third-party tested, and designed for real results, not just quick fixes. You can try them at bioptimizers.com/biohackingbrittany and use my code biohackingbrittany for 15% off your order. That's bioptimizers.com/biohackingbrittany, because when your gut, hormones, and nervous system are supported, everything else feels easier.
Yeah, I think you're referring to the cell-free DNA test or the Gallery test. And there's so many platforms out there that look at whether it's DNA fragments, RNA fragments, tumor cells from the blood. And, and then the idea here is that if you can detect these tumors in the blood at an earlier stage, then you can potentially, go for a full screening and then treatment for a possible cure. This technology is still very nascent. If you're referring to the Gallery test, which is one of the companies that sort of commercialized this technology out there, it has a lot of flaws. And as you know, when it comes to these tests, it's about, their predictive nature, so sensitivity, specificity, positive predictive value, negative predictive, all these statistical analyses, right? And I think from the Gallery test data is that you need to test, and don't quote me on this, but you need to test maybe 1,000 people, right, to get one diagnosis, right? I'm just making the data up, but just to give you an idea is that this is not the same data you get with mammogram screening, colonoscopy, pap smear, right? Where in those cases, the rate of detection of disease is much higher. That's why you justify population health screening through these age-based screening for cancer. But I'm very bullish on the technology because, again, I think that with a drop of blood in the future, we're going to know so much about you. So from a proteomic perspective, so we're going to analyze thousands of proteins. We're going to analyze, your chemistry, your hormones, analyze your epigenetics, your genetics, and then all these other tumor fragments. It's coming. it's not there yet and it's very expensive. Well, should do it. Again, what I would do is I would break down the evidence, understand the utility of this test, the risks, the limitations, and then make an informed decision. No one should tell you, hey, Brittany, don't do it because it sucks. It's your personal decision. And if you will get a good answer out of it, and if it will empower you as a consumer in society today, why not?
But I mean, it's expensive, right? Like, I think it's like $1,800 for one test.
Expensive and it barely works.
Yeah. But that's the thing is like, what am I going to do? Like mammograms starting now at 32? It's like, and just expose myself to that much radiation for the next however many years. And that's only for breast cancer.
Yeah.
So
well, breast cancer, it's like, especially if you have genetic predisposition, you could do a breast MRI, which doesn't have radiation, as you know. There are other technologies that will come to market that will be sort of consumer friendly, sound like technologies. But yeah, like, so the question is, should you be doing a full body MRI as well? That's the same conversation as a Gallery test. We now know from various platforms like Prenovo, which is a direct to consumer MRI company that started in Vancouver, actually, and then commercialized their product in the States and doing very well. So we now know from these longevity clinics that offer MRIs and the Prenovos of the world that about 2 to 3% of people have a stage 1 cancer. So 3 out of 100. About 3 out of 100 have an intracranial aneurysm, most of which are sort of silent and small and will unlikely grow to lead to rupture. And about, let's say, 30 to 50% of other findings, they're actionable. Like they may find a scoliosis or a fibrosis somewhere, or a polyp or a thyroid nodule, right? So this is part of phenomic medicine. It's through these technologies we're understanding human anatomic evolution over time, and it will be very interesting to see the data that's being generated. So Prenovo did over, I think, 100,000 imaging so far. That's incredible data. And they train their own AI models and whatnot. So imagine if we're going to have more of this data, we're going to understand human behavior and health better, right? It's going to help us build better products and services for humans, so we can continue to double down on living longer.
Yeah, I mean, the full body MRI is actually a good idea as well. Well, I mean, maybe something I should look into. I think they reached out to me a while ago to work together, but I remember thinking maybe they were only in the States. Maybe they're in Vancouver too, though.
Vancouver, yeah. I don't know if they're going to make it to Toronto anytime soon, but it's a great platform, great user experience, and great because if it's utility, right, and product. But I'm also very cautious about the incidental findings that can come out of this test, the anxiety of finding something, or the unnecessary biopsies that can result from finding something, or the pressure it will add to the public health system. So if everyone's going to start doing Prenovos and we have like a 50% rate of something positive, well, guess what? Prenovo is not a clinic. They're going to refer all these positive things to the health system. And that's going to add so much pressure to our research.
Yeah, but like what's better? Like not finding out for a few years and then it's like stage 4 and then you are like hitting the public system anyway because then you're on all the drugs and doing...
Well, that's where you got to synthesize the evidence first, right? You got to show me a technology that makes sense for public health. So when it comes to the economics of medicine. So personal health versus public health. If it's for personal health, do whatever you think is right for you because you understand your risk appetite and accept it. But for public health, we have to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, our public health system's not that great, right? So,
it's a system. There's no perfect system out there that I'm aware. It is a system serving its purpose in our economy. It can be better. It can be much better. There's a lot of waste, and there's a lot of wait list, and there's also a lot of harm. I would argue that it doesn't deliver good standard of care. So consumers need to then ask why and where am I going to go get good standard of care today, right? So this is why I love the proactive care medicine and the longevity economies, because there are great founders and companies building in this space to meet demand of consumers, because consumers are asking the why right now and they want answers and they want a platform that they can trust, right? And so I don't think we need to frown or discount the value of this wellness and longevity economy. It's an important economy and it's going to create a lot of noise and data and maybe false positives, but it's serving a lot of people.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people call it sick care, not health care. And a lot of, especially women, are just like tired of being dismissed by their doctors
Yeah.
and saying their symptoms are hormonal or like menopause or blaming it on one thing. And women are like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? And then they go and find other people to work with, other products, all these different things. So I feel like it's almost just like a lot of people have really been forced into wellness because our healthcare system has actually not delivered on what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. And conversely, and listen, I'm wholeheartedly with you, right? I'm in this wellness economy, but I want to challenge the wellness economy as well, right? There's a lot of bad actors, and you don't often hear about the crap that happens in that sort of wellness economy. Stem cells you infuse in Mexico that leads to an ICU stay because of sepsis, or the illegal peptides that have endotoxins and impurities in them that lead to a lot of issues in the body, including potentially increasing cancer risk, or to the bad actors that are prescribing unregulated medicine without a license, right? So again, I think there are good and bad actors in every system, and I think every system has its goods and bads. You just have to be careful as a consumer. I think that's the message I want to, portray today, is that you could do whatever you want, but understand the risk. Like if you want to go to your family doctor in the public health market, sure, but understand the risk of doing that. And if you want to go to a private concierge doctor or an executive health platform, go, but understand your risks and benefits.
Yeah, there's both to both. You're right. You're completely right.
I think that we should respect each other and help each other, because I think the goal is to provide a platform for our consumers to feel safe and for us to meet their demands and their expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to pivot and talk about ELI, which I have here.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yes. So this is so interesting. When I got this in the mail, I was like, how does this work? And my husband actually did this. He, downloaded the app, started taking the tests, and he has a very stressful job. He works for a California startup, blah, 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 all the things. So let me try to understand this from his perspective. So this is a cortisol test. That's a saliva test. And when I was looking on the app, you can test at any point in time in the day so that you just get another bit of data so that the app can then understand your cortisol curve better.
Yeah. So
right?
Let's break down the physiology of hormones and the ELI platform. So hormones dance throughout the day. They have a rhythm. It's called the circadian rhythm. Hormones are high in the morning and low throughout the day. So it's important to measure them in the morning, but some hormones require sort of serial measurements to understand their curve, and their area under the graph or area under the curve, and then their rhythm between 2 or 3 time points. Okay? And I think what that will give you sort of a better understanding of how your body is dealing with different scenarios, including pre-exercise, post-exercise, before sleep, food. Because if you measure cortisol at a one time point only in the morning, you're going to miss on that important window of opportunity to understand how your body's reacting to various stimuli. So why cortisol? Cortisol is the output of the stress system. It's one of many outputs. Heart rate is another output, epinephrine, etc. But cortisol is sort of a good surrogate marker. It's easily measured in bodily fluid, so sweat, urine, blood, saliva, hair. And what ELI has done is that they have invented a category-defining technology. It's called the hormometer. So 12 patent pending. What it does is that it is the world's first instant hormone monitoring system. And what it does is that through the saliva, we will measure your free hormone levels, so free cortisol. That then activates a lateral flow assay and then turns the hormones of interest into colors. That color is then translated through computer vision from someone's phone and AI into an absolute hormone number. And then if you do serial testing, you'll see your graphs. The AI will then coach you, create personalized insights, whether your hormonal rhythm, your hormonal graph is optimal or not. And if it's not optimal, it will recommend sort of non-medical wellness-related interventions. And if it's persistently abnormal and suggestive of a disease like Cushing syndrome, which is a rare but devastating chronically elevated cortisol, or significant stress and depression that leads to chronic cortisol. Products like ELI can potentially, with the right, of course, studies and regulatory framework, help with diagnosing hormone conditions. We also have progesterone, which will help with menstrual tracking and progesterone-related disorders. We're launching testosterone soon to help with, different testosterone-related conditions. And this is really meant to be a wellness, consumer-centric, over-the-counter, so direct-to-consumer product. Cortisol is it's not considered a medical device, so you could sell it direct-to-consumer.
Yeah, you guys will have to send me the progesterone one because I'm so curious to see with my menstrual cycle and ovulation and period and everything, like how that plays out. But what I love about this is like I've done the Dutch test, which you obviously know, multiple times, and I've done my cortisol curve. And, you see it's higher in the morning, lower at night, which is great. It's kind of what you want.
Yeah.
But it's 4 points within the day. What you're saying is like, actually, let's get like way more nuance and like, let's get more specific. So before you go to your big meeting, test and after, or before a big workout and after, and like see how your body is handling the stress that you're actually putting it under in a day-to-day scenario, which I think is very unique.
Yeah, it's like the HRV or the Fitbit for your stress and hormone system. And for me, it's very exciting as an endocrinologist, for the first time in history, now we have the ability to measure at 2 different time points, the cortisol curve, and to see whether our cortisol HRV score is normal, right? And that's an important sort of surrogate for our hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And it tells us, just like an HRV score or a stress score, that things are within normal limits, that things are optimal, at least from the lens of cortisol. And if it's not optimal, so if it's a dysregulated rhythm, then rhythm can recommend wellness-related interventions like breath work and better sleep and certain foods and so on. So I'm very excited about this because for the first time in history, consumers now have the ability to track their stress system from the lens of cortisol, and soon their menstrual cycles from the lens of progesterone and estradiol, and then of course testosterone for other use cases. It's very cost effective, scalable from a production standpoint, all the way to the cost of the actual product versus the Dutch test, which, as you saw, requires multiple hurdles. And of course, the cost is quite high as well. And a laboratory to analyze the biomarkers. Unlike ELI, it's all done through your phone, through computer vision.
Yeah, I was very surprised when I saw that. Because when I got delivered, so I get a lot of these at-home tests sent to me, which is like cool. But a lot of them are like test, pack it up, send it in the mail. Okay, a month later, I'll get my results, which is great. It's better than what it was. But like this, connecting to an app and like seeing it is just, it's incredible.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you had a great experience. It's users.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you get to a point where you could track other biomarkers, but I don't know if you would actually need to know them as much though, like in terms of vitamin D, like we talked about?
Yeah, so thyroid, like TSH, vitamin D, inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein, interleukins, tumor necrosis factors. The technology can potentially be used for urinary tract infections, STD, and so on. So the underlying technology, so lateral flow assay, has a lot of utilities.
Yeah. Interesting with CRP, because like I get that definitely tested whenever I do my blood work. And is that something that would actually show up right away? Like if I ate like a massive piece of cake or something with like all the sugar and everything in it that is inflammatory based on the ingredients, like would it actually show right away that, hey, your CRP, your inflammation is now elevated?
No, so CRP is sort of a global inflammatory marker that's elevated when there's sort of a chronic insult, whether it's a chronic disease or an inflammatory condition in the body. It doesn't respond like the cortisol through a rhythm that's consistent through your cycle. But it's important to have low CRP levels.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
I mean, it's just interesting.
Longevity biomarkers that we check at baseline. If it's elevated, then we have to look at the root cause. So we do sort of a deep dive into why there's an elevated CRP.
What CRP levels do you like to see?
Less than 1. So on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 3, the lower, the better.
Yeah. When I was pregnant, my CRP levels were so high.
Right.
And I did not know at the time that pregnancy is an inflammatory condition.
Yeah.
It was like 2.53.
Yeah. And pregnancy is also a protective condition. So a lot of autoimmune diseases abate during pregnancy, and they can sort of unmask after pregnancy, like thyroiditis, post-pregnancy, multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis improves during pregnancy. And a lot of it is sort of this evolutionary advantage that the body goes through and the physiological changes that the body goes through to protect the mother and the fetus during development.
Yeah, I tested third trimester. I tested like 4 months postpartum and it was high as well. I think it was actually higher. Obviously, not obvious. I was breastfeeding. And then I recently tested again and now I'm 15 months postpartum and it was like 0.73, 0.75. And I was so happy.
Yeah, that's a good longevity level. There was an interesting case that was published recently of, I believe, a 117-year-old female that wanted for people to research her blood. And she had, great immune system, low inflammatory markers and low cardiometabolic markers. So it just shows you that, these markers are so important. And that's why we include the high sensitivity CRP in sort of our baseline assessment for a longevity assessment. We also know that colchicine, so anti-inflammatory drugs, can help lower cardiovascular disease, likely because they lower inflammation in the body.
Yeah, that makes sense. Something that you touched on earlier, and I want to bring it back because I listened to a podcast recently about this, is muscle synthesis and longevity.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't understand, and I don't know if like my average listener might not understand either. I didn't understand how important muscle is for anti-aging. Like as a woman, it's always been like, don't get bulky and whatever society tells you. And then now I'm reading and I'm listening to all these podcasts and things about it. And it's like, no, you want to be lifting heavy and you want to do like power workouts and HIIT instead of like Pilates every single day, like lifting heavy 3 times a week, like at 80% of your capacity is way better for your longevity. And I did not know that.
Yeah, and there's several reasons for this. So there are 2 phases in life. There's the thrive phase, which is the first 40 years, and then the dive phase, which is the last 40 years. In the dive phase, everything dives. Your muscle, your function, your power, your brain, your cognition, you go through wear and tear. And a lot of it is, just I think genetics, right? And our body today are not used to living that long, right? So then we go into sort of a manual control model where we have to take action, right? And a lot of it is how can I repair my body? What am I missing on? What am I trying to achieve in the next 40 years? If I want to prevent falls, if I want to be able to still lift when I'm 80 or not use a cane, so functional decline. And then if I want to continue to do my daily activities without anyone's help, right? Which is bathing, clothing, shopping, and care my finance. And all these are important considerations that I'm thinking about right now, right? In sort of my midlife. It's called midlife crisis. So in my midlife crisis right now, I'm thinking about where do I want to be when I'm 80? I'm drawing that map, that vision, and how do I want to look like when I'm 80? Be frail? This is my opportunity because I can't build muscle in the same way in my 70s versus today because of so many factors. The other thing is that the muscle is a metabolic organ. Synthesis that goes in the muscle, protein synthesis. And so having healthy muscle can lower your risk for cardiometabolic disease, including diabetes. And it's also important to be strong today. Well, one, because there's a lot of social instability out there, right? You don't know when you're going to get into a fight. But also it's really important because we know that if someone who is going through functional decline ends up in a hospital, which is a major risk for mortality and disease, things start to decline very quickly. If you fall in your 70s and fracture your hip, your risk for mortality increases significantly, right? So a lot of it is I want to build to protect what's coming my way.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And especially like women before perimenopause, right? Like when you have way more estrogen before those years begin, it's easier to build muscle. It's easier to keep muscle and strength and power. But the thing that I have been coming back to, just like knowing my audience and knowing like what I'm building and my retreats and these things is like, how do I get the average woman who's 30 to care?
Yeah, it's tough, but it should be part of the daily routine. I wake up in the morning, I go to the gym across the street. I do one muscle group per day for half an hour. I focus mostly on resistance training. So I lift a lot of heavy weights and I maintain my sort of body composition. I'm not looking to sort of grow a lot of muscle or to compete, or to lift, above a certain threshold, because then my risk for injury increases. So that's one way to think about it. So prioritize weightlifting over cardio. Walk every day if possible. It's good for mental health. Get your steps. You need a minimum of 3,000 to 4,000 to see benefits. But I would say muscle training. And the first muscle group that sort of decline, or the first to decline, are the thighs group.
Oh, interesting.
Focus on your thighs, your glutes, and because you also need them to fight functional decline that's coming our way.
Yeah. I think it's also just like, what are your values in life? What are your priorities?
Yeah.
Like I see my mom helps with our baby and I see her like rubbing her like thumbs and fingers all the time because she's starting to get like arthritis and she has like pain in her joints. And then I think, okay, so when I'm in my 60s, how could I not get that?
Good.
What do I need to do right now?
Yeah. So you're really strategizing early on for what's coming. And I think in someone's midlife, so say 40s, which is such a critical period. It's a critical period of reflection, taking care of potentially sick family members. There are a lot of financial stressors in this age group. It's midlife. For females, they go through perimenopause, which by the way can start in their mid 30s. So, symptoms of depression, fogginess, skin issues, gut issues, all can be the beginning of a 10-year journey towards menopause. So all of that may impact, the overall psyche, relationships, mood, sleep. In Canada, we lose, I think, over $30 billion in GDP value because of lack of menopause and perimenopause care, because of productivity related issues. This decade preceding menopause, and in males, it's called andropause, is such a crucial period. It's a wake up call beyond just building muscle. Take care of yourself. You may need hormones. Get your hormones checked. Till menopause. Don't let these mild symptoms of I'm not myself, don't discount them, right? Being foggy and bloated is not normal. Not getting good sleep is not normal. Not feeling well, not being happy is not normal. So do go seek, expert advice. And I think what we've seen from our experience is that we can turn things around very quickly with the right diagnosis and therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the andropause for men, I mean, it's different though, right? Like people make fun of menopause now as well, because it's like, it's not like one day, in time, which is like kind of how we've understood it. It's like perimenopause is like 10 years leading up to that. And finally, the narrative around perimenopause and menopause is changing. But with andropause, like, what does that look like for men?
It's the same, but no one talks about it. It's not getting the same. Yeah, it's not getting the same media attention. But men to lose their testosterone in the 30s by about 1% per year. Now, it's a gradual decline, but most men by their 50s don't have an optimal testosterone level. And if you look at the endocrine society guidelines or other guidelines, they call it as sort of hypogonadism of aging or late onset hypogonadism, right? It's like, don't touch it. It's normal. It's normal for testosterone to decline in your 50s, 60s, 70s. You don't need to treat it back to your youthful years, And I think that is just it's unfortunate. I think we're going to look back in a couple of years and say, what were we thinking about synthesizing this evidence based on? How are we going to empower the 70-year-old, 80-year-old, 60-year-old to lift at 120 with low reserves, including low testosterone? So yeah, men go through midlife crisis as well, and some of their symptoms could be from low testosterone or non-optimal testosterone levels. And I could tell you the amount of men I treated with just by increasing their testosterone by 20, 30%, taking them from mid-reference range to the upper tertiles, significantly boosted their confidence and their productive work. I've got a guy that built 3 companies in a 5-year period to how he feels, related to testosterone replacement therapy. I'm not saying that everyone that's on testosterone will build great companies, but that seek optimization.
Yeah. Well, we need testosterone, right? Like it's the motivator. It gets like helps get you out of bed. Well, so is cortisol, but it really helps with like even pushing through a workout. I don't know. Like I love testosterone.
Even for
I
females.
get my levels checked.
Yeah, even for females, testosterone for females is crucially important. The earliest hormones to decline in the perimenopause period. So let's define perimenopause. Perimenopause is the period preceding menopause. In perimenopause, females have fluctuations in different hormones, including progesterone, estradiol, testosterone. Progesterone is sort of one of the earliest to fall down. And so we may start with progesterone-only replacement therapy with or without testosterone. During perimenopause, females can still conceive. So it depends on what their objectives is. Is it oral contraceptive pill for family planning or hormone replacement therapy, which uses and leverages a much lower dose of progesterone and estrogen? The difference is that in oral contraceptives, you have synthetic forms of estrogen and progesterone. With HRT, you've got what they call bioidenticals. So compounds that are similar to our body's hormone production.
Yeah, my mom, I got her on a progesterone cream just to help with things. And we did that whole thing a couple years ago. And she does it at night and it just helps her sleep and like calm her down and all of these things.
Yeah, probably the safest approach in menopause is a micronized progesterone, starting dose 100 milligrams, estradiol patch, a testosterone cream. There's no FDA or Health Canada approved testosterone cream for females, so we oftentimes compound or use the male androgel version, which delivers, much higher dose. So men typically have, 10 times higher concentration of testosterone than females.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I definitely, would play around with HRT when the time comes, because I just think there's so much value there. And hopefully by the time that I need that in however many years, it can be a bit more clear on what works and what doesn't work. Because right now it still feels a little foggy and people are like questioning if it causes cancer and all of these different things.
It's foggy. The evidence is out there. We've got great evidence. What happened with the women health study over 20 years ago was, one, they used a different form of, estrogen and progesterone. And, the results were not generalizable. We have much safer options today. We have better results. We now also have evidence to show that if you start HRT, so hormone replacement therapy, within 5 years of menopause, you could potentially lower the risk for dementia, heart disease, and of course, feeling good, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, like I wouldn't, and the FDA, by the way, is in the process of removing the black box for testosterone.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was great. Like, I feel like, I just got to prick your brain and learn so much. And my listeners definitely will as well. If people want to connect with you and work with you or even try these at-home tests, where can they do that?
So eli.health, that's our website. You could purchase these kits directly. I run a company called Hormonally. So HOMORNALY. So HORMONALY.ai. And you can find my contact information there. And happy to chat anytime. I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Nice. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I will put that in the show notes and on the website so everyone can find you easily. This has been great and I appreciate your time.
Good to see you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Biohacking with Brittany. I hope today's conversation gave you something to take into your own life, a practice, a perspective, or simply a reminder to trust your body. If you love this episode, please leave a review, share it with someone else who could benefit, and join me over on Instagram at biohackingbrittany for more. And if you're ready to go deeper, you can explore my retreats, community, favorite tools, all linked for you in the show notes. Until next time, remember, your body already knows.